Hello, and welcome to Melee Stats Deep Dives. I am your host, and well, what do we have here? I was planning on just having a fun little episode about, I don't know, how I like March as a month, how it's still kind of cold, but you're getting into the warmer weather. I thought it was going to be a very fun episode, and then suddenly someone has to come along and announce one of the biggest Smash announcements in the past few months. You know, you could argue that this is one of the biggest Smash announcements in the past few years, even if you wanted to. And we're talking about the Smash World Tour. The new announcement from VGBC about a circuit for both Melee and Ultimate. And, when I think lots of events, I love large Melee events. I love to see the players perform top 8. I love to see them throughout the day. But what I love about large Melee events, I love to see the little corner of the venue where you've got some guy and his stack of books. How you doing, Edwin?
I'm good, man. Just chilling, been relaxing. I was also caught by surprise with regards to yesterday's news.
Were you truly caught by surprise?
Well, yeah. I would
Okay,
still
all right.
say so.
I mean, some people are caught by surprise. Some people are kind of in the know, but we'll never truly know who's who, I guess.
Some people are always in the know.
Well, it doesn't really matter who's in the know because now everyone knows about this. This is a very big thing. I don't know what your thoughts are on the scope of it, but I know your thoughts on it in general. You have your Monday Morning Marth article. If people want to read that, you kind of outline your thoughts in it on meleestats.co. But yeah, we're just going to spend most of today's episode getting into the Smash World Tour. We're going to start talking about, going to outline it, of course. It's a pretty huge deal. And just talk about our thoughts on it. So, Edwin, do you want to kind of go over what's happening here with this, what the Smash World Tour is?
Right. So basically what happened on Sunday afternoon is that VGBC announced what was going to be a worldwide Smash circuit. And like we talked about, it's called the Smash World Tour. I would say that this is particularly a big deal, not just because of the scope of what the circuit is trying to go for, but also because there's a lot at the line. And when I say that, I'm actually referring to a combined $250,000 prize pot, which is going to be by far the biggest one in Smash history. I believe, I actually don't have the sheet in front of me right now, but I believe on the last day of basically the final championship for the circuit in December, the prize pot for the finals alone will be $125,000.
I believe that is the breakup down for it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is actually this is probably the scene's most prominent circuit in recent, the most prominent one in recent memory.
Oh, for sure. This blows anything that we've seen out of the water, right? Like, what is the most comparable thing to a circuit that we've got to see recently, right?
The closest thing I could think is like the road. Maybe the road to Apex in like late 2014. That's it, and that's nowhere near this.
Yeah.
The scale of what's like. This is a true international circuit. Which I was not expecting.
This is when people talk about circuits, this is a very common thing that people bring up. This is basically more or less what they are talking about. And what we're going to do this episode is we're going to get into the more and get into the less. Because for all that this is bringing to the table, it's a very odd type of way to do this, I would say. There's definitely some things that even to people who just watch like tournaments on a relatively casual basis, I think that even they would see some stuff that might be kind of head scratching here. So you wrote your whole Monday Morning Marth article about that. If people didn't read that, could you just give like a short summary of what your thoughts on this were?
Yeah, so first off, you can check it out on meleestats.co, the website where we have Monday Morning Marth and When's Melee, basically weekend recaps and weekend previews every week. Um, uh, so basically, what I wrote today for Monday is I kind of had a lot of mixed thoughts about this. Objectively, having a circuit is better than not having a circuit, right? It offers some semblance of structure or centralization to the scene. And I think in comparison to what was the standard before, aka no standard, it's a welcome change. What what really bothers me though, and when I say bothers, I mean my extreme hesitance toward it is just whenever there's an injection of a large sum of money into the scene, I always wonder where that money is going to go, and I always wonder where that money is coming from, and I also wonder what that money buys. So who is benefiting from putting this money into the scene, and how is it being spent?
We know who's benefiting. His name's Juan, and
Well,
he's the coolest guy in the scene.
yeah, well, so there's that. So it obviously benefits a top player like Juan, Hungrybox, Debbie Edma. But
Mhm.
I think the other thing is more so like, well, if you're putting this much money in the scene, presumably the people running the circuit are getting some kind of legitimacy or some kind of authority, right? So when you're running a circuit of this size with such a huge prize pot, there's a certain kind of there's an aura that follows the events that align with you or the events that you run on that circuit.
For sure.
So I because we operate in a scene that is so decentralized, so grassroots, and pretty much off the sole effort of like everyday people in each region, um, propping up their scenes and creating like different local infrastructures for Melee. Anytime there's a semblance of authority that kind of gets involved, even if it's from people that have been grassroots for a while, I just naturally am always cautious about that kind of thing. And it's not to, and I don't say this to mind read some kind of bad intent on the people running the circuit, but it just always makes me think of accountability and sort of transparency of where that money is going, how each event is being ran, etc.
Mhm.
And I just, I guess I have mixed thoughts because I do see it as objectively a net good for the scene, most likely,
For
and
sure.
potentially something that could be greater. I, both of us are scene volunteers, so I think it's very weird to see something be
Oh, buddy, I
pushed.
get paid.
Yeah, well, I get paid too, but I just get very there is something kind of off-putting about the idea of explaining to everyone that something is within their collective interest when the people actually benefiting from that are such a small margin of people that are trying to turn it into a career. So it's essentially like by running a circuit with so much money into it, there's presumably a value add that they're asking people to that they're trying to get the majority of the community to at least put money into via, subbing to the stream, buying merch, a compendium or whatever way of they put money into the scene. Presumably, I they're expecting something back, and the value that they're bringing to people is that they're trying to give them something that gets them to donate money in the scene, where most of that money is going to top players or going to event organizers, which is fine. I think the scene should support the people that are putting the most work into the scene, but at the same time, I don't know. I know I'm kind of all over the
I'm,
place, but I'm trying not to
I'm,
read straight from my column.
I am struggling. Who do you think does not benefit from this mainly?
Well,
Who?
I don't think the average smasher is gonna really benefit from this, and it
Well, I
seems
mean,
like
I think
this.
that's a very narrow view of what benefiting means. People have been asking for circuits and just the general, like the ESPN or not the ESPN tweet, although ESPN did tweet about it, which is cool in of itself.
I
But the
guess.
announcement tweet, I think has like 13K likes. 13K. People want this to happen. It is enough for some people just for this to exist. If you are someone who doesn't devote your life to Smash but likes watching the majors, if you like to watch like 6 to 10 tournaments a year, this benefits you. And I don't think you need to see any of the money. I don't think you need to like actually get anything other than just excitement from watching it. to claim yourself as someone who benefited from it.
I think I'm thinking of this in long term, because I think that people that are saying that they would be really happy if there would be a circuit, I worry about the long term sustainability of those people actually like
I
putting money.
agree. I don't think that this is a this is something that I think you have to play by ear if you're the Smash community, right? You can't look at this and say, okay, well, we could just copy paste this onto years 21 through 25.
Yeah,
I
and just frankly speaking, I'm sorry, but I don't know if out of all the streaming collectives, I don't know if I would have had VGBC as the streaming collective. I would have been most confident in some giving and running that kind of experience that would keep people coming back.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point to bring up, because let's get to the meat of that. The fact that VGBC, they were the ones who announced this, and they're the ones who are running it. I think that's really important. But I also think that people are kind of connecting some dots that might not necessarily need to be connected. And that's in regards to BTS, right? Like, we are
Right.
seeing multiple big tournaments that have streamed on BTS for their most recent iterations, not part of this. And I think a lot of people might kind of be assuming that there is a rift, that there is a VGBC versus BTS thing. But also, you have to look at it. So we are missing, and just this is using 2019 numbers of attendance from Melee singles. We are missing 4 of the biggest 5 tournaments last year from this circuit. That SmashCon is the only one of those 5 from last year that is in the circuit. And I think it's kind of easy to say, like, the first thought to think is, okay, well, it's because those streamed on BTS. But I also think it's important to think, beyond that. Like, what do 4 of the 5 biggest events have that these small events don't, right? Like, why are they big? They have a brand that they can work off of, that they don't necessarily need to submit to a type of circuit.
Right. So so one of the things I brought up in my column was the lack of Shine, the Big House main stage, and Don't Park on the grass on the circuit.
I mean,
but
sorry, I was just gonna say, add whatever you want to call it, Smash and Splash / Riptide. Add that, because that is also one of the largest events of last year.
Yeah, of course.
And to be honest, add Genesis. This obviously, Smash World Tour starts in March, but this didn't start planning this year, right? It was probably,
well, that's one of the weird things. Like, this got announced after Genesis, which
I mean, it's a concentrated effort to not have Genesis be a part of it. I'm not saying that it's their, the Smash World Tours. They were trying to not have it a part of it. I'm not saying that Genesis was not trying to be part of it. I don't truly know, but that was intentional, right? If Genesis were a part of the tour, if Genesis could have been a part of the tour, Genesis would have been a part of the tour, and it would have been a tour that started in February. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the point I wanted to bring with Shine, the Big House, Main Stage, and Dome Park. Well, Dome Park, I'm pretty sure the circuit's final. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Dome Park falls into its normal conflicts, like it
of getting screwed over. But the reason I brought up those 4 tourneys is it's not that I think that entrance to those tourneys would be significantly hurt. But again, a question mark that comes from them not being included in the circuit is, what was the value add that came from joining the circuit that those 4 majors did not buy into, that the smaller ones did buy into?
That's a great point.
And I think, like, an answer like that, I know there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but for the sake of entrance and for prospective attendees to decide where they go, I think that's something that does kind of matter. Like, I want to know why these 4. If I'm going to an event, I want to know, what was it that that the circuit was offering other events that got them on board that wasn't enough for these 4 majors, or vice versa. Like, what were these 4 majors looking for that they didn't get?
For sure. And I think that it's no coincidence that the majors that we do see, take out all of the ones that are VGBC run. So take out, like Pounds, Script, take out all those, SmashCon. And I think it's no surprise that the strength of these majors is kind of lacking as opposed to what we would normally see. We mentioned Genesis is not around here. There's no main stage. There's no big house. We don't really get to see a ton of big tournaments, and I think that is kind of telling. Just if you want to talk about like what they gained from a perspective joining of the circuit, smaller events like HF LAN, BAM, stuff like that, they have a lot to gain from being premier events in this, and stuff like Double Down, like a major that hasn't existed since 2017, or Apex, which hasn't existed since 2015.
Oh my god, I can't believe they brought back Apex.
Apex, that's a thing in its own.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that.
No, we can get into it. That's part of it. Apex.
You sure? I have some really strong feelings about it.
Apex is a strictly business move, right? Like no one wants to bring back Apex without knowing what bringing back Apex means, right?
Yeah, they just recognize the name. It's like
exactly. And if you're selling this to a potential backer, saying that we want to have however much money, it is very helpful if your potential backer sees like, okay, well, they had this huge tournament, the biggest of all time at the time, probably one of, I don't know the numbers on the top of my head, but probably the one with the top viewers of all time at the time, if not very close. I understand why that could be a kind of juicy selling point. And then if you knew a lot more about Smash, that becomes maybe a little more
a little more toxic of a brand.
Yeah. So I understand why this came back in terms of a large circuit and maybe not on its own.
But why'd they rebrand Royal Flush? They went Royal Flush.
That is an odd thing, right? Like, I don't know. Royal Flush Double
Down.
Couldn't
they have just called it Royal Flush 2 Double Down? Like, why? This is like a weird Rocky kind of, or a what do you call a Rambo kind of situation. Royal Flush Double Down. What's the third one then?
Royal Flush Double Down has so much like it's so wordy. Royal Flush Double Down.
I guess.
Give me your impression of Keitaro saying that Meister is the winner of Royal Flush Double Down.
I cannot do that. I don't even remember what Keitaro sounds like.
I don't remember, man. I remember.
I only remember him from the documentary of saying he never loses Marth Dittos.
I mean, who knows? We should put him up against Zayn. We'll see how he fares.
2007 Keitaro versus Zayn.
Dude, he's the 2020 version of Hybrid. But yeah, I want to hear more about your thoughts about. I've been cutting you off this entire time. I want to hear more about your thoughts on the circuit because you are someone who try to think of a way to say this. I would say it's cautious optimism.
Yeah, but I focus on the cautious part of it mostly because I think, to be fair to the circuit people and to kind of disclaim something about myself, I always am very skeptical when things with a lot of money and a lot of potential promise enter the scene because I'm so used to every time when this kind of thing happens. Like, do you remember when...
I remember it all, man.
So, in like late 2017 when GTX was trying to be a huge major and we had top community members like write long Reddit posts of why it was our obligation to support these events with big investors and how if we didn't support these events we'd be blowing an opportunity for Melee and how even if we weren't going to attend these events we should register anyways to make our attendance look higher to give the like this kind of stuff is so off.
If something goes wrong with a big backer, it is the community's fault. Was basically what was being portrayed around GTX.
And it's just so off-putting when that kind of stuff happens. So, and I get this is a little different because the money is coming from, and it's being managed by a collective that's been in the community since the grassroots day. So it's a little different. But I don't think it's unreasonable for me to always have a healthy dose. And I can concede that maybe in my case, it's a little more than a healthy dose of skepticism and cynicism. But when you've been in the scene long enough, like you kind of become skeptical of huge things happening, and then when a huge thing is presented to you, or when something seems very big, it kind of tends to fizzle out a lot. So you so who knows? Maybe by the end of the year, this whole thing is a success. But I will say another thing that stood out to me as a red flag was that the Smash World Tour said that it wasn't partnering with Nintendo, but it was looking forward to it, or open to an opportunity. And to me, that's just like an absolute no. Like
that
I do not
was
want
that was one of the saddest things that I have read from like a Smash perspective in a long time.
Yeah, like what is
Just
this
like open like, hey guys,
it's pathetic, man. It's like, oh, like Dad's gonna come back from the gas station or whatever.
yeah.
Like come on, he's not coming back.
I think that, God, it's such a VGBC thing to do, right?
Yeah, I read that and like, whatever.
I understand the message of it. I think that probably could have gone through a second draft to not sound like just so desperate.
Yeah, so pathetic. Yeah.
They should have owned the fact that Nintendo doesn't care.
Yeah, it should have been like, oh, did you? Are you part of Nintendo? No, we probably never will.
Yeah, I don't know. That part doesn't really mean anything to me. You know, I think that there are some things to talk about on the Smash World Tour. And wasting any time talking about like how they would like to be partnered with Nintendo but aren't, I think that that's kind of burying the lead. Yeah, I don't really know. There's a ton of different things here that we can get into, and I'm just kind of struggling with where to get into and how.
Well, we can talk about the rule set. It's probably a big deal that wobbling in the ledge grab limit, or wobbling is banned at most of the events except H-Flan, I believe. And there's a ledge grab limit of 60 at all of them.
Well, you know, HF Land not having the wobbling ban intact just kind of shows that there might not be concrete rules to this as much as maybe other circuits would have. I think that like if more of these tournaments decided to not have a ledge grab limit or decided to not have wobbling ban, I don't think that would kick them off the circuit. You know, as opposed to like if you are Capcom running your like the Capcom Cup circuit for Street Fighter, and then suddenly one tournament, I don't know. I assume that the rules can't be very different for that. But like, if you're like Blanca's banned, sorry guys, no Blanca. Like I imagine that gets you kicked off. Which of course is extreme to say wobbling banned versus Blanca banned, but you know, struggling to find a good.
I wanted to actually bring up one thing that stood out to me as weird. Is the event, the script trilogy, the final one of any script ever?
God, I hope so. You know my thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's just whack, dude. It was never gonna last.
No, every tournament does this. We talked about this. They all think they can be so cool by like having monthly events or like bi-monthly or something.
Theme.
And any character theme, and we've gone into this, any character theme, you either start Falco or Falcon, and then you have this huge idea of how this is going to be so cool. And then if you did Falco, you do Falcon the next time, you swap it. And then you get to 3, and you're like,
Fox?
Marth? It's just like... And then you start to realize what the future is going to be. It's not going to get any better. You're going to be like inviting.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's Mario Brothers themed. We're going to have Palika play.
Play Curve.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not Curve anymore.
Curve anymore. But I could not think of any Luigi's. I thought Ja Raiden.
What if you have
Which
it
would
like?
Be cool.
What if you have it like, as in like series? So instead of getting like a Young Link versus a Link Summit, you just have or a script. You have a Hyrule script.
Well, I mean, isn't that what? Oh, here's a good point. Isn't that what 2GG events do? They usually do larger themes because they have 80 fucking characters to work with.
Yeah,
where you can say we're gonna have only characters from Zelda or something. But which brings us to a kind of interesting thing, you know. So obviously we are melee focused. I am not particularly interested in Ultimate to a large extent. I'm sure that you aren't as well. That was
there was literally nothing I could tell you of substance about Ultimate.
that was the nicest way I could phrase it for you.
I think I'm the most aggressively like ignorant about Ultimate person in our entire in all of Melee stats. I don't think there's a single person who knows less about Ultimate than me out of us.
I don't know. You're the person who thinks it's coolest to not know anything.
I'm not saying it's
You'll
cool.
be like,
I'm saying
DeBuzz? Who's that? And then
Shut up.
and you'll like lean back and start smirking.
I just smirk and pretend not to know like Leo or something. No, I'm not so
like,
bad. Listeners.
You walk up to Leo and you like ask for directions and you're like, wait, was that guy famous or something?
Yeah, but it's like all super exaggerated. No,
like,
to the listener listening to that, I am not that snobby when it comes to games. This is a bit.
But speaking about Ultimate, we talked about how that there are a lot of important tournaments that are missing from the Nintendo side, from the Melee side. I think you could also look at Ultimate schedule and the fact that there are no 2GG events. That's pretty big. Like let me look it up actually. I gotta find out some information. But I'm pretty sure have been consistently running pretty large events for the entirety of the Smash 4 and Ultimate scene. In fact, last year they had an event with 800 people. They had another event with 400. Had another 400 one and one with 900. Like that.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of thought 2GG wasn't around anymore because like they were running out of money or something.
I couldn't tell you. What I know about 2GG is,
maybe I'm totally wrong on that.
They stopped.
There's some Ultimate player listening to this podcast that's getting so mad at me right now. I'm sorry.
They ran. They had an idea for some sort of circuit as well. Bringing back to circuits where they would run like a monthly, every month in SoCal, which has its own issues, right?
Yep.
But I believe that they then decided to kind of move the majors that they throw apart further, and they probably are seeing larger events spaced further apart. Having two 900 person events, that's nothing to scoff at, right? So the fact that they are left off of the circuit, that's another interesting part so that we can bring up. Obviously it's something that doesn't affect us, but not having 2GG events in addition to the large Melee events that we say, it's kind of interesting. I have a little game that I want to play with you very quick.
Oh no.
So how many top players have you seen complain about the events that have not been part of this tour?
You mean like complaining like along the lines of, oh, like why isn't the big house on it?
Exactly. How many use your discretion as to what you consider a top player, but how many top players have you seen complain about why a lot of large events have not been on this tour?
Have they complained?
Exactly. Isn't that wild? And then imagine a scenario where instead of
I was gonna say 0. Like I haven't seen any top.
Who's 0?
Oh my god, no. Who's 0?
Put sunglasses on as I say it.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where instead of this tour being brought to us by VGBC, imagine Nintendo says, all right, guys, mask off. We've been developing a tour. And they show the list. Maybe this is just me. Maybe this is how I think the community would view it. Obviously, there'd be a wave of everyone being like, holy shit, a tour! And it's Nintendo, they care! But when that fades, I think people would be like, wow, Nintendo's very out of touch with our community.
Can I be I don't think I share that faith with you, man. I think even if regardless of if it was regardless of if it was Nintendo or someone else giving a $250,000 prize pot, I think everyone would just I think everyone's eyes would light up and get blinded.
Of course. No, I believe that there would be a ton of people. Obviously, like that's what I said, like there's an initial wave of everyone saying that. Imagine if instead of VGBC, it's a third-party organization trying to think of something. Maybe something that has legitimacy, but not the type
Game
of
Tyrant.
even something, you could extend it to something like ESL, right? You could say like a
Yeah.
big esports thing where we're not like an organization that we know will actually pay out and not just like fizzle. But maybe something that has not been involved in Melee. You can extend it to that. And I think looking at the list of events on the tour, I think people would say, well, they don't really know Melee. They don't know Smash in general. You can tell just from the events.
Yeah, that's very true. Like if we didn't know it was VGBC, we might be a lot more critical about that specific thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. And you brought it up. This isn't that good. And I think acting as if it is anything other than good is in bad faith, right? And it's dwelling on the small things.
Well,
the small bad
I
things.
think it's an objectively a net ad because of the potential it brings, but I'm very skeptical in it to actually be effective in the long term, like
and
boom the scene.
You take the words right out of my mouth. I think that it is a net ad, and I think acting as if it's anything but good for the scene is just kind of being incredulous. However, I think acting like this is something that could go long term, or maybe is extremely healthy long term. I think that is when you kind of get into a gray area, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'm a little more pessimistic. Like I think I straight up think that
What is the worst thing that could happen from this?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, because the thing is, I can't simultaneously say like, oh, this doesn't help most people. Because then if that's the case, like that, if I'm saying that it's not going to affect the most people, then it's not a horrible thing if the circuit fizzles out after one completed year.
Yeah.
So I guess it is a good thing. But to me, it just feels so sudden, man. Like they're announcing it after Genesis. It feels sloppy. It feels not. I don't want to say half-assed because there's clearly a lot of work put into it, but it seems like it's coming out at a random time for the scene and all this. So to me, I just see it and I think, okay, well, it's better than nothing. There's all these holes in it, so I guess it's better than no circuit. But it's that whole thing in Melee, man, where you see something that's like almost there and you see all the holes that exist around it. And you see people getting excited and pretending like those holes don't exist because we're all in this space where everything we're doing is basically a hobby, right? And it's like we want the scene to have like that extra 10%. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that's the best way I could put it.
I think that's a really interesting way to look at it as well. I think this is maybe not necessarily a Smash circuit. It's maybe a VGBC circuit with VGBC and friends. Like,
yeah, I guess
we talked about, I mentioned the 5 biggest events of last year: Genesis, Smash and Splash, Shine, Big House, SmashCon in some order. One of those is on the tour, and I think just like having one of the 5 biggest events being a part of the tour, it does throw me off, but I can't really come to the conclusion that there is anything bad about this. I can come to the conclusion that this is cool and just is probably so close to being so amazing. Like I think I hesitate to say that this is going to like check all the boxes of what I want to see, but I cannot call this anything but good for the scene.
I think that's a fair conclusion when you put it like that. When you put it like that, I guess there's no reason to be negative about it, I suppose. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the people who we are, and also I guess the people who are in Melee Stats and who are in the Melee Stats podcast Discord server, link to which is in the description, I guess we are naturally pessimistic people because there have been a lot of people who have less than stellar thoughts about the tournament series, about the World Tour, and I think they're justified. I think that you see top players and like literally no one's complained about any of it, which is crazy. And then you go into maybe like the nerd corners of the world who are kind of pointing out all the flaws. I think there's a happy medium where we can say this is good for the scene. This will, if maybe not make Melee bigger long term, this will probably give Melee A nice healthy boost. People were already calling 2020 a good year, like just looking forward to everything, and I think that this adds on to it.
Yeah, I suppose.
There might be some sort of disconnect between what winning Smash Factor 8, or sorry, Smash Factor 9. There might be a disconnect between what winning Smash Factor 9 and what winning the Big House 10 it means, but that maybe is not the biggest deal in the world. And I think that with a scene that is so unreliant on circuits for the entirety of our lifespan, I don't think we necessarily need to rely on circuits for everything,
Yeah,
Like,
that makes sense.
maybe if every single year the Big House was around, it was on Smash some circuit, and then suddenly it's not, right? Like, that is a big event. That's a big thing. But if we don't have a circuit for years and the Big House thrives and we finally have a circuit and the Big House is on it, I'm not too concerned about people suddenly be like, you won the Big House? Big win.
Yeah, exactly. Like the events that have so much prestige, they're not going to suddenly lose it. I think you're pretty on the money about this.
Well, I've got a question about this because this kind of maybe not hand in hand, but it definitely is related to something else that is very important in the community, something that top players care about a lot, which is rankings. Rankings are both like, they can be the bane of my existence, and they can be like the thing that I happen to be probably like the biggest stamp that I've had on the community.
I thought you were gonna say in your life for a second.
That's the
like is this the thing?
It's the thing that keeps me going.
You're joking, but you're being fully sincere. I know you love it. You love it, dude. You're literally this is like a part-time job for you, man.
No, dude, I'm fucking clocking in 9 to 5. I get in. It's like, you have your asshole boss. Mine's PTAS.
Oh, I thought your asshole boss is just gonna be refreshing Fiction's Twitter to realize when you made a mistake or not.
No, I know, dude. Fiction's the hot girl from accounting who never seen talk to me. Or hot man. I don't know. Or hot non-binary.
Yeah, either one. It's
You
okay.
people can be hot no matter how they see themselves. So, let's talk about rankings.
What do you want to talk? So, well, I guess the nice thing is that because there's such a huge prize pot, there's a circuit around it. Presumably, I mean that has to mean that like no one is going to go to an event and wonder, oh, will this count for the rankings, or should I try, or should I drop out, and all this stuff, because they have things to lose from not doing as well in the circuit, right?
Not necessarily, right? If you
don't think so?
Well,
why not?
The circuit works in a very particular way. This is kind of really borrowed from Tekken World Tour, where it's not so much as a gross like net of all of your points. It is your best performances. So if you went to 4 platinum events, right? Let's say you went to Pound, HF LAN, Get on My Level, and bam. And you got 3rd, 5th, and 7th. What your events are counted are 3rd, 5th, and 5th. It's only the top 3 platinum, top 3 gold, and top 6 silver. So if you have Bobby Big Balls and he goes to 20 different silver events, if he gets like top 8 at 6 of them, then that's getting counted. It doesn't matter if he gets, whatever at one of them. So in a way, you could get to a point where, like, imagine if you are Axe and it's, or Plup. Let's use Plup as an example. Imagine if you're Plup and it's got to SmashCon and your platinum performances are like, 3rd, 9th, 7th. You're like, okay, well, what do I have to lose, right?
Oh no! So you're telling me that Leffen could show up to a major, make it out of pools, and then DQ to play Ultimate? You're telling me that'll still happen?
There's probably not a ton of reason why someone like Leffen would do that. I think, the way that he views like something like that probably is a little different. But yeah, it's good. It is good because If it is just a raw point total, then you have your remnants who are coming into the scene, right? Like, who would be a good example of a player right now? I think like Calvar, right? Imagine if it was just gross point total. Calvar suddenly gets in.
Oh, yeah, Calvar.
He's like the 16th seed. Like
He goes to too much.
Or like, Mango goes to a couple events. Mango doesn't really go to a ton. He goes to what's important, but he doesn't go to a ton that's not important.
Yeah.
So imagine like we see HBox first seed and like Mango 8th seed. Because like probably how it's going to be done in terms of seeding for the final event will be point total. Generally, these large events run by big circuits don't decide to skill base seed their final events. So
yep,
it's a smart decision to make, and it also doesn't put too much pressure on people. If you get really good scores at some majors, then you don't have to constantly feel like you need to go to the next one, which I think is very cool.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's it's the Tekken World Tour system with some added differences, which is, hey, if it ain't broke, steal it. But what I was going to allude to in terms of rankings, which we took a little while to get to, I've heard some people wonder how this affects rankings. I saw this from the Myth, the Man, Blur. I saw this from my boss, Practical Task. I've seen it for people who are kind of involved in the community. This is not someone who is just like a O2 person who's got 5 followers who's just saying, well, this makes rankings bad. There's some like genuine thoughts about how this affects rankings, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this because you are someone who has been very involved in past MPGRs. So you kind of have a good intersection of how this works. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's funny. I saw people comment on this Why can't I speak? I saw people comment on this online, and I know what you're talking about. But the funny thing is, this doesn't really to me, it doesn't really change my approach to ranking people on a set by set basis, especially like when viewing regional plus events and those kind of sets.
Yeah, but you're the minority, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's funny because I'm in the minority of that, and I think most people feel the opposite.
Yeah,
but for whatever reason, I don't know how to express it, Wheat. It's like for whatever reason, I don't see it really like super changing how I view sets. But that's also because a ton of the events that I'd hold as showing meaningful or important sets aren't included in the circuit.
Yeah, well, you're in the minority because you're someone who looks into rankings and who like this is you are someone to actually look at the data. Our rankings are a very big thing for the community, and they go pretty far. They're pretty far reaching. So we're not talking about people who they're going to be like, oh, actually, like Panda's year was pretty good, but you got to also talk about Daki. You're not talking about those people. You're talking about people who maybe have a kind of less of a stronghold on the scene in terms of that. Like imagine if the summer rankings come out, and we have a leaderboard, and like we might have differences in that. There might be people who care more about the leaderboard. There might be people who wonder why. Maybe Zane has more points than Mango. Why is Mango ranked above Zane? There could be a disconnect between what a ranking means and what a point total, what a score means.
Yeah. When you put it that way, I suppose. Yeah, for sure. I don't know how. I would have to see. Like, I guess it depends on how it kind of turns out, right? Like, I would have to see what those disparities are. And then presumably all of us would have to get together and sort of like I know peaks versus consistency versus like, and then with like attendance adjacent to that are all kind of like different things that we have to evaluate. But we also have to measure relative for events. And I guess it's weird for me because it's like a ton of the events I would see as holding the most importance, or again, like we talked about earlier, they're not included on the circuit. So like the circuit events, like obviously they're going to hold greater weight than just like a weekday local, or but like when it comes to measuring trends, like, and then when it comes to measuring sort of like all the sets together, like I don't think it would really like I almost feel like the problem that people think that this solves does not really like exist. And I don't really know how to I don't know how else to like explain that. But like it seems like that problem exists because of things like the leaderboard versus rankings, but I don't really, and I don't think like we really think it does.
Well, I think that what we think, doesn't reflect what the larger body of Melee fans think.
Yeah, no.
Considering,
Like,
like,
yeah.
do you do you remember how everyone was mad that Zane got ranked below Wizzy? Where did
Yeah,
you
they
where
were
did you
mad
have
about it.
Wizzy?
Dude, they were mad about it after Zane won Genesis, and like not after a year in which Zane's record against the top 5 was like disqualifyingly bad. It
But
was so ridiculous.
those are the people who would complain, and it's not even complaints. It's more how much value does a ranking still hold in a system where you can look at a live updating scoreboard of who did what where, which is going to lead to a big final event. Personally, I'm not incredibly worried about how the community views it or how top players view it, because I think that it's so ingrained in the community for so long that having a circuit come along won't really be the end all be all. I think if you were to talk about a different community, like if you were talking about Tekken, like what if Tekken had a ranking now, how many years into their scene, instead of a world tour, how many years into their scene? Like we have kind of the opposite experience where we've had rankings for so long and just got a tour. They've had tours for so long and just got a, hypothetically just get a ranking. Then I think people don't care about the ranking. But I think where we are in our scene, we're just kind of relying on it. And I'd be interested to see how top players care about it. I wonder if that maybe shifts due to the Smash World Tour happening.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Generally, my response to people who are worried about this affecting rankings, I don't think it truly will.
I just imagine you holding like your hand and your palm is open once they start talking about this to you in person. Or you doing like the equivalent of that? Like you just hold your hand, like all 5 fingers showing, blank face, no expression.
It could be like the best thing to happen for me in regards to ranking as well. It might put an end to all of the people who are doing like, I was going to say bad faith. They're not bad faith. They're just no faith. It's just like people who are like, okay, well, we're 2 majors in. We're 2 majors in. I think Amsa's 13th in the world. I think that might put an end to all of those, which is cool. Like all of the useless rankings that don't really have this like milestone with them. Like I think I've talked about this on podcasts before. I'm pretty happy with how rankings are in the community with 2 a year. You get the top 50 in the summer to show how it's been going. And to be honest, some summers probably don't even need a top 50 at this point. 2020 with the tour and everything, probably we're good to have it. But last year, ooh.
Yeah, last year was brutal.
Yeah. Well, and the classic top 100 at the end of the year. Like, you can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
Anything in between, I think you need to like show a huge shift in how the scene looks, which is why we had the MSPR in 2018, because I think that legitimately there were differences in the scene when we released in between like the summer top 50 and the top 100 at the end of the year that weren't covered. And who knows, it's hard to really say how meaningful a 3 or 4 month rank is. But yeah, people they fucking love to rank.
It's the lists, man. People just love making lists.
I'm a list maker at heart. I love lists.
They love ordering lists.
God, I was a teenager and I would list everything. I'd watch a TV show and I'd list like which episodes are the best in each season.
Oh my god, nerd.
Oh, fuck off. Dude, Do you know like how much of a through line all of Melee Stats has with past obsessions? It's so funny to look at everyone and just like everyone's got some weird thing about them.
It all makes sense.
It does make sense. Yes, that we devoted our lives to Melee, and it's funny because like you could see like you have fucking guitar shredding. Like,
yeah, I had like guitar, and also the I used to be when I did sports writing in college. I used to be involved in like when I was super into basketball. There was like a 8-year stretch where I just did all-time fantasy drafts and made rosters on NBA 2K. That was like one of my hobbies. I actually got out of watching basketball because I got too invested in Melee.
God.
So Melee replaced basketball, but the other half of me is football investment. And like with Eric, it was chess and a bunch of other stuff.
Eric is very
Or Ambi, yeah.
Ambi said it's very funny in terms of what his past obsessions were before Melee took over. Because you're right, very big into chess, but also we saw a lot of dice videos from him.
Yeah,
dice stacking.
And then, I forget what Leon's thing was, or YCZ's was. I feel like he had a bunch of them.
Yeah, he's definitely the person. I remember I joked that I could juggle at Genesis. No, maybe not Genesis. I joked that I could juggle at a tournament, and his eyes lit up, so that might be one of them. Regardless, it is no surprise that I, as a younger person, was someone who was very obsessed with certain things, and my obsession came out in order. Like, I thought that doing a concrete list of things would say like, well, this episode of the X-Files is like definitively better than this episode, you know? I thought that was how my obsession came to be and how I showed that. And now as an older person, you know, I just can't see myself doing that with Melee right now. There's so much, like imagine doing a ranking. People have done rankings for the year so far and they have Wizzy outside the top 10, which by results is fair. You know, that's right.
He's been kind of bad lately, but like I don't expect that to hold up at all. So like
No,
it doesn't.
it's
not a quote unquote rank that I would say holds any kind of like long term value until it keeps happening.
Yeah,
you know.
And that's the thing about these rankings is it like it's acting like they're canonical in a way because there's no rigidity to them. Which is we're in a scene where we have so much happening all the time and so many like look at our top 10 and then look at what we consider like a rough top 10 just after Genesis. Like look how much that can shift in one major and then try to tell me that we like this is the definitive top 10 after 2 months of play.
I mean, look how much shifted in a couple days at the beginning of the latest Smash Summit. Like the first set that or one of the first sets of the event or might have been, I forget when it happened, but when Hacks lost, or when Hacks beat Plup, that was probably like, that was just another low point for Plup, and then at the end of the event, Plup finished second, and even like took a set off his biggest demon.
This has kind of been a weird tangent, but it's something that I truly believe in. Like, if you want to make a 6-month list, I think we have that. That's amazing. I think 12-month lists are one of the backbones of the scene. I think that's a really strong thing that the scene has. And anything other than that, I think you are like grossly discounting the fact that these players have such a high range as to how they can play. Like imagine saying like definitively Wizzy is the 12th best person. It just kind of seems to underline the fact that
like it's like, well, when he gets a bracket that like goes his way, or like when he plays well on a given day, are you gonna suddenly be like, okay, never mind, Wizzy was 4th all along? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, I always try to go with the rule of 3 for events. Like, if someone has 3 shitty events in a row, it's probably indicative that they're in a bit of a slump, or that you can sleep on them a little bit. But it may not show that they're like they are as bad as those 3 events show. It might just show that they're in a bit of a slump. And conversely, 3 hot events in a row means that they're probably not as good as those 3 events show, but they're probably a bit higher than where you previously had them.
I agree. I think that like there's definitely ways to look at it. I think you can especially as you get further up the ladder, right? As the further up you get and closer to number 1, you start to like make small exceptions for people where you could be like, okay, like Wizzy hasn't had any good events, but I wouldn't be surprised if he pops off. Or you could be like, well, maybe this certain player is playing at a very high rate recently, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't stay around a while. Like the best example of that being Chudat in 2017.
Yep.
where he's going to every event and he's doing so well. And I swear, like, half of Melee Stats is just like, this has to end, right?
Yeah, why is Chudat like suddenly number 6 in the world
It's
or
like,
whatever?
This can't stay.
And meanwhile, like all of us, when the MDVA Invitational happened, literally none of us were surprised when he went like 3-6. All of us were like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Milkman and Redwood destroyed Chudat.
Yeah. And this is wonderful discussion for Smash World Tour.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're coming up on the end of this episode. Before we go, I just kind of want to highlight some of the really good things about the Smash World Tour, because I feel like this has been an episode of two people who maybe have their just like tacit approval of the Smash World Tour, but maybe nothing more than tacit.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about like what this really means in terms of the positive aspects, because I think there's a lot that are really obvious and we just maybe don't mention them because they're so obvious, but definitely need to be said.
I think the biggest one is visibility. Also.
For sure, 100%.
Like we always something that we've talked about like among all of us in Melee Stats is how many things that we take for granted that we just assume other people know because it's so obvious to us. But like if you think about it on an even larger level, even an average person in the scene, like, or an average person that like posts online in the scene, right, or watches like Mango stream, there are things that they probably know about the scene that like large media outlets, like just upon a glance over, just have no idea about. So the presence of something like a Smash circuit that gets national coverage, it can't be overstated, or not national coverage, but gets like coverage from mainstream outlets. It can't be overstated how big of a deal that is.
For sure. And I think it gets extended to player marketability. You know, we talked about rankings too much for this topic, but imagine you're Fiction, right? And you are the 12th best player in the world, canonically. You know, it is a good marketing tool to show, hey, we've been 5 months into this tour and I am 6th or whatever, you know, like it is a good marketing tool for these players, especially as we are seeing more and more top 10 players who are just unsponsored, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is a good push for not only the scene at large, but it's also good for these individual top players.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can help them grow their brand. You know, maybe it'll incentivize them to stream also.
Yeah, I mean, as we get into a larger important to events, you know, in terms of just this, you could have people who might stream because they might need to raise money for like a platinum event. You know, it might not have been a huge thing that they might have prioritized before, but maybe now that's a bit of a change. One thing I want to mention, which is I think is, for all you could mention about how the scene, maybe the tour missed some marks, I think the one thing that is really good, the international events.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could argue maybe the international events are too important, but that is such a great problem to have, right? It's like, I don't know, like we are giving too much of a spotlight to these people who don't get it. HF LAN, BAM, Smash Factor, all international events, all platinum events. So we should be seeing a lot of people there who have not been to those before. There's another platinum event. Oh, that's European. But there's some Japanese events, even for Melee, which
I was pleasantly surprised by that Umembra or whatever it's called.
Well, this is to be announced for Japan because they have Ultimate ones. But I believe it's going to be 2 Ultimate ones for Japan and 2 Melee ones. So the Melee ones have yet to be announced, as far as I know.
Hmm. I see. Are we saying that there is a potential chance of a Sane or Shippu boost in the leaderboard?
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Um, I think more than anything, it just kind of incentivizes the regions, because I think it can get disheartening, right? Like, imagine
Yeah, absolutely.
your region is just constantly clowned on, like you know, a lot of European regions, I think, are kind of unjustly maligned by like North American people, and if you feel that, like, imagine how Europe feels, and then just double it for any other like
Yeah,
place in the
absolutely.
world.
Hmm.
Um, the best thing that this could bring is more people playing in these scenes, right? If we could have scenes that show considerable amounts of growth in areas like Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Mexico, Japan, if we could see that, that's huge for Melee.
Absolutely. And then the world will realize that Mexico is secretly a top 5 region, like Ambi has been telling us for the last 2 years.
I don't know, man. Mexico top five, yeah, sure, why not? If this
Yeah, you
happened in
see JPEG beat
2006, man,
Dream?
dude, if this happened in 2006, can you imagine?
Yeah, Javi and Twin would have destroyed everyone, dude. Free.
Wonder if we get to see some more Javi here. That'd be amazing. Amazing. What if Javi just like gets fifth at Smash Factor, and he's sweet, like just like manages to get his way in?
It'd be a it'd be certainly something. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
even know what he's up to right now.
who knows? But it's not too far fetched that players who don't play very much anymore would be coming back, because we are currently talking while Duck is playing Samus versus people like Magi, like
Yeah,
top,
isn't
bona fide
isn't
top
he still
players.
like isn't he still like super good with Samus? I heard he was like destroying
Oh,
her.
I'd be shocked if he weren't. That like that's a weird assumption to think that he wouldn't still be good.
I don't know. You never know if people sleep on those who have been out of the game or out of serious competition. I still think Duck is amazing, and Duck isn't even the person I've been thinking about most for inactive players.
All right, we've been having a fun little thing where Edwin and I DM each other, just like kind of really excited about something that is never going to happen. But you want to get into
Yeah,
it? You want to
yeah.
devote
So the
some
long
time
story
to it?
short is I've just I don't know what's happened. I never knew this part of me existed, but I've just become a huge Armada fanboy for his play, and watching him just still mostly thrash IBDW and Fiction on stream and watching highlights of it. I'm convinced that he is still the best player in the world, and that if he came back, literally no one would beat him right now.
It's so funny. Edwin and I have been DMing each other ever since Armada went to Summit, and you know, there's some streams where he's been playing
Dude,
top
he just
players. Like,
suns people. He's just so good, dude. He still beats all of them.
he
It's
plays
wild.
IBDW and Fiction, who are top 10 players, and man, he's so
Well, to
good.
to be fair, I think they take like 1 or 2 games every like 9 or 10. But he's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
like
Especially Cody didn't make it seem undoable, but just like he moves like Peaches don't do right now. There's no Peach who plays like him currently.
yeah, I think I just took him for granted because watching him play after, like bless Lot and Triff, they're amazing players, bless the other Peaches. But like watching Armada play, I kinda like forgot how much I just took for granted that he does. It's like all good player stuff. And by good I mean like by good I mean like oh my
He's
god.
he's okay.
Yeah, yeah, by good I mean like oh my god, this dude is unstoppable.
Truly, no other player who plays the game like he does.
Yeah, literally no one else.
And
It's amazing.
it's like I watch, I think Leffen plays Fox. I think he plays Fox in a very magical way. I think Mango does the same with Falco. But I watch them and I don't get the feeling that they will be the only ones to play like that ever. And I get the feeling when I watch Armada play like that with Peach, I'm like, oh yeah, no one's gonna do this.
Yeah, when I get Armada, when I watch Armada play, I'm like, oh my god, no one can ever hit him, like without eating like 70% if they try to hit him. He's like the Terminator.
I didn't realize like how good I thought he was until the past like month, and now if he goes to a tournament, I mean he's not going to, of course.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not. If he were to go to a tournament with everyone involved, I'm seating him fourth, dude. Fourth at the lowest.
Okay, we're getting to. I'm so sad or annoyed that I brought this topic up. We're getting too horned up. We gotta end this.
Okay, before we end it, we're gonna each talk about this. Who's the scariest person right now for Armada and bracket?
Right now, I would have.
How scary are they? Is the second.
I would have said Leffen, but Leffen like is not looking too hot. Okay, you know what? No, the Smash World Tour is around in a situation where like Armada's not coming back. But if he were, I would take it that Leffen would really grind. I think it's literally. I think Leffen would have like a 60% chance of beating 60 to 65% chance of beating Armada.
Yeah,
first try.
Leffen falls into that camp where he is definitely a threat versus Armada, but he has to be playing like a 90%, and
he's got to be giving Melee like his full focus.
And we just haven't been seeing that too much from Leffen. So I think Leffen and Plup fall into the same category of players, and Wizzy fall in the same categories of players who are like, if they're really on one consistently, that is a threat in Armada's bracket, and we just have not seen them. Yeah, go on.
I would add one thing with Wizzy. I think Wizzy would have to be on one, but it would also require Armada to be playing like rustier than he did in friendly streams. Like it would require Armada to be playing bad against Wizzy, I think.
I think, it's really funny to see how just different our perception is right now.
Wizzy lost to Nico, dude. Like Nico is very good. I think he's awesome, but like compared to Armada, like that's a very bad sign for someone's chances.
I mean 6 months ago, we were maybe not 6 months ago, maybe like CEO time, Smash.
Like
Smash
9 months ago.
We were confident. We would be like, oh, Armada would have lost to Zane and Wizzy this year. Like I felt confident in that. I don't know if you did.
I did too.
And now we see like a different thought going on. I'm not a Wizzy fan, but like I have this weird innate sense that he is never down and out. Like he might not be good for a couple events, but I think he could still win one that he goes to in the next like 3 months.
Yeah, I mean maybe.
So I want to give him a little more credit than I think he can beat Armada if Armada's playing well. At his peak, if Wizzy's playing at his peak, I think he can beat Armada, who's playing well. I don't think that peak Wizzy would need Armada to be rusty. But
if you have that much faith in Wizzy, I would put Zane then in that same category.
I put Zane there similarly because I think that Zane's ability to just kind of grind out certain things has proved to be somewhat good for him. I think that Armada would be the type of player to still be positive, but not out of the realm possibility that Zane could double eliminate Armada at an event.
I think it wouldn't be out of the possibility in the long term. I think in the long term, Zane would be scary.
God, this is the dumbest thing that we could bring up right now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is so ridiculous.
We've gotten off the rails. We need more shit to talk about on a podcast because apparently just the Smash World Tour didn't do it.
I think we had a nice discussion.
I think we did.
We just remembered how much we. God, I miss Armada.
He's the GOAT.
I never thought I would say this.
Literally the GOAT. He's H-Box is incredible. Mango, of course, his runs are amazing. However,
yeah, Armada's just like indestructible.
If they didn't play the game for a year and a half, I don't know if I still think they were going to destroy everyone in their path like I do Armada.
Okay, we gotta stop this. All right, you got the last word.
If you want to discuss other similarly dumb things about Melee, you can do so as we described in the Melee Stats podcast Discord server. especially with the Smash World Tour, we're going to really be a buzz with
it'll
stuff.
be pretty great. And we got some stuff coming up too, also in the Discord. Wink, wink. That's coming up fairly soon.
Yeah, everyone look at your calendar. For sure. And if you really want to support us for the stuff that we do for Melee, this podcast, when's Melee, what is it? Fucking Monday Morning Marth?
Yeah, Monday Morning Marth. Yep.
I completely am out of touch when I call it like Melee Marth Mondays. If you want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/MeleeStats. And, well, Edwin, how long do you think is too long for me to shill your book? What's the grace period?
Just name drop it real quick and we'll be good.
I
love how I'm telling you to name drop it. Yeah, the Book of Melee. The Book of Melee. It's a book I wrote about the history of Super Smash Bros. Melee. If you like it and you want to get a physical copy to show how much of a Melee fan you are, go to Amazon.com and search Book of Melee, and it's written by a guy called EdwinBudding.
Link to
that
which
is me.
Still in the description for this week.
Yeah.
Who knows how long this link is going to stick in the description. Should be a grace period for this. We'll figure that out. But as for right now, if you want to enjoy the history of Melee, and what is a better time to enjoy the history of Melee than right now when we are writing history?
Shut up. Okay, real quick, let me get the patrons out of the way. Thanks Joey, thanks Mikey Tabletop, thanks Curly, thanks Dark Gen X, thanks Dakuo, thanks Emerald, thanks 8Box's Son, thanks KJTY21, thanks Nikki, thanks Soma, thanks Vero, thanks Etost, thanks Stock, thanks Bits, thanks Cyclops, thanks Tunox, thanks Gerg, thank you Liam, thank you Rich, thank you Slothrop, thank you the Cyan Yoshi, thank you Tuesday, and of course thank you Webs.
You've become such a little Webs fanboy for the past few months.
I love him. He's great.
This is a great little story, little subplot of Melee.
I'm such a genuine Webs fan. There's only two people I like more than Webs, and that's Blarg257 number 1, and then number 2 is Zets.
Oh yeah, I sold them all at your wedding. Asshole.
Yeah, the ones at my wedding were all like tied for 4th.
Yeah, you all just brought us to your wedding so you could talk about how much you love Blarg.
Yeah, Blarg is the real hero of the scene. No one knows.
I'm shocked that Blarg wasn't mentioned at your wedding. I like Maybe they were, dude. I was hitting those mojitos hard.
Next Genesis, dude. I swear, I'll find Blarg. I haven't run into him in the last 2. I've been a huge Blarg fan for like 2 years.
I've seen you walk up to people with no fear at all and act like you are their good friend. You'll just like walk up to Drug Fox and act like you guys have been buds all the time. And I'm sure Blarg is the one person who...
I never do that. I have no fear, but I would never act like I was someone's friend. I just double down on sincerity, dude.
I'm sure that Blarg is the one person who you'd have like stage fright and you want to.
Yeah, Blarg, like, I'd get nervous about, dude. I'd get so nervous around Blarg. Yeah, I unironically would. Oh. Blarg or like Cardano.
Yeah, Cardano, that'd be cool. We should get the deodorant in for an episode. We should try the deodorant. Make like a
commercial out of it, like mid podcast.
Well, I was gonna say we should make a YouTube video where we try it on and we review it.
Oh, it's not a bad idea. If you want content like this, you can support us. All right, let's
Edwin, out. I appreciate you being on so much. This is a very big cornerstone of Melee Stats is having you on, and it's a very big. I can't think of the word right now, but it's a very big opportunity right now for Melee to have the Smash World Tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I'm excited.
Two very big things together. What more could a man ask for?
Or a woman, or a non-binary person.
Exactly. I appreciate you being on so much. You can follow him at Edwin_Budding on Twitter. And you can follow me at Give.Wheat. You can follow Melee Stats at Melee Stats Pod. And I thank you everyone for listening. I really do appreciate it. We'll be seeing you guys next week, and maybe we'll have a fun little project to talk about. Any more closing shills that you need to get out of your way?
Nope, I think you just did it. And I'd just like to say that when we're talking about projects, we're not talking about Massachusetts foxes.
Wonderful. For Melee Stats, I am giving it Wheat. Thank you, everyone, for listening.